Okay, I'm gonna pull a card as I do this. Oh my gosh, that's my ceiling fan because I feel like I'm obligated to. Y'all can see my whole messy ceiling. But like, I just got a call from somebody. It was like no caller ID. I was like, oh, who is this? Who could this be? Could this be someone that I actually want to hear from right now? And of course, the answer was no. And so I get a call, right, from this woman, from this lady. And she like, hey, so I'm gonna be giving you weekly calls now because this is a ooh. All my cards could have just fell out on the floor. The bottom of the deck just like came out. Ooh, tragedy averted, right? I should tape that. But she calls me and she's like, hey, so I'm gonna be giving you weekly calls until like May 1st. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm on the phone just like, and she's talking about what's going down in the world, and she has family who are personally affected. One of her nephews is a law enforcement officer, and he was affected. I don't want to, you know what? I don't even want to talk about the news. Anyway, she called me and she had a bunch of bad news. And she's like, I'm calling everybody. I'm going to be calling every week to let y'all know what's up. And I'm like, girl, like, I'm not going out. I'm staying indoors. I'm doing what I can do right now. I don't need these updates. And it's just like, part of me is like, well, I guess I'm going to be helping her transmute this. But the other part of me is like, I want to get the freak out of here. Girl, like, I ain't got time for this. I ain't got time for this, and I'm not trying to pick up none of this, so I'm gonna have to hit you with this, and like peace on out to something that I actually want to do. Like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, ooh, what's at the bottom of the deck? The Hermit. She's going through it. She's really going through it because her family is personally affected, you know. And she's like, yeah, I was up until like 3 something in the morning because, that's when the numbers come out. I'm like, okay, I got a card. It just flipped over. Let's see what it is. But I wasn't going to upload. Ooh, okay. Justice. That's interesting. That's interesting. What's at the bottom of the deck? The Knight of Wands. What's behind the Knight of Wands? The Seven of Swords, Four of Swords, and then the Hierophant. So that's 11 swords, right? 11 is a number of awakenings. It's a master number. And so I think this is a realization that maybe this Knight of Wands is having, that like if you continue to stay still, you will pass up on things that are meant for you. And so I feel like with this energy, though, it's like he doesn't want to move too quick. I feel like with justice sort of clarifying all of this, there's this energy of perception, especially with the Knight of Wands. There's an energy of perception. How will it be perceived? How will it be received? What will I look like? Maybe all of that stuff. But it's going to work out the way that it's supposed to work out. And I feel like it's going to work out favorably. But being like no movement in this situation is going to keep you away from whatever it is. I guess I'm just going to do another message because that was actually low-key kind of cool. And maybe this is helping me transmute some of that. I'm just like, every week until the 1st, every week. And like, I already got to transmute the energy when I'm with you. Like, hello? Like, I saw your email, girl. Like, I don't need anything. And she was like, there's this other person. I was on the phone with them for a half an hour, and it's not about the quantity of time. It's about the quality of time. And I was like, well, the quality of my experience right now is much lower than what it would be if I was not having this conversation. Again, I understand sometimes, that, like folks come to us and we got to help them transmute a little bit. But at the same time, I'm like, girl, what am I supposed to do with that? 444. Okay, give me something else. You know what? Oh, that's a lot of stuff. Oh, okay, I'll take it. Bottom of the deck is this Knight of Wands again. What's behind him this time? Behind the Knight of Wands is the Page of Swords, and behind the Page of Swords is this Knight of Pentacles, and behind the Knight of Pentacles is this Ace of Pentacles, and behind the Ace of Pentacles is the Lovers, and behind the Lovers is this Queen of Swords, followed by this Ten of Swords. I don't even know if y'all can see all those. But it's funny that the Page comes out right after the Knight, but then if we go further back, we have the Queen. So I think I get the story. Why am I still looking? Okay. So a whole bunch of cards just came out. I kind of want to see. I got a feeling like I want to get into the cards, but I want to get into the SKT because I want to get into something deep and something like deep, right? Start with this Four of Wands. I saw the Four of Wands at the top of the sack, and I was like, oh, guess I've also been like reading every card lately, and I kind of sort of like it. So we start with this Four of Wands celebration, right? But the thing about fire is the element of purification and of cleansing. But the way that fire cleanses something is by, painfully is coming to my mind, but it doesn't necessarily always have to be painful. But it purifies something by breaking it down to its most basic essence and elements, right? It strips it away of everything. The excess is burned up. And there's something about heat. Heat, when things get hot, molecularly, they speed up. They vibrate faster, they shake faster, they do all kinds of things. And once they shake quick enough, they break free of the sort of energetic latchwork, energetic framework, energetic boundaries that have been placed upon them, right? And so that's why things burn up, right? It's just like when things dissolve in water. Because, if you dissolve something in water, it's like the hydrogen molecules, if it dissolves in water, right? The hydrogen molecules come in and they sort of like pull it apart. And then the hydrogen molecules, the water, surrounds the whatever it is in the water so that it can't reform. But fire, like the way that water does it, I feel like the water does a lot of work, right? Because the water molecules come in and they separate stuff, they break it up. But when it comes to fire, it's like fire gives us the energy to shake and vibrate and increase our own frequency enough to break free ourselves. And you kind of just like shake everything loose, right? And so I feel like there's like, look at him doing the jive, right? I don't know why the jive is the specific dance that came into my mind. But they're shaking it loose. And I feel like this celebration in this card, someone's like celebrating freedom from something. This is a victory, maybe after a tower moment, maybe after a big situation. And then we have the Six of Cups, which is a lovely, because that's soulmate energy. I learned it as soulmate energy back on biddytarot.com. It can also be nostalgia. I feel like there's this, understandably so, there's this huge desire to return to better times right now. And it's almost like a refusal of what's happening. And I feel like there are a few different ways to refuse what's happening. There are a few different ways to try to escape the reality, right? Not all of them great, as I don't even want to get into what she talked to me about because I don't want that on my channel. But I'm still going to post this, so everything that I said is said, but we're transmuting it, right? But I feel like, ooh, okay, well, I'm going to be looking for somebody in the deck after this because I'm curious and I want to know. But I feel like there are a few different ways to sort of like separate yourself from what's going on right now. And not all of them are great. But for some reason, I feel like there's a refusal to accept something. Right? But on the plus side of this, maybe this could also be a refusal to fall into the the building panic and fear that is very understandable, that is very real, right? Real. I don't know why I put real in quotes. 1010. Okay, I think I like that better. Take whichever message applies for your situation. But this is a dogged determination to continue to look on the bright side of things and to know that the celebration is coming, right? And that could be finding little things to look forward to and celebrate in your day-to-day life. Like, I mean, I mentioned it before, like when Lindsay Lohan popped up on my Twitter that was like, Back to Me is a song about, getting back to your roots when everything is like dark and crazy, and it's going to be dropping on Friday. I was like, oh snap, something to look forward to. And now I have something else to look forward to, and I don't want to give it away, but something has been very, very heavy on my mind. A few things. And not heavy in a bad way, just heavy in a, what am I supposed to do with this way? And then it kind of sort of just, I missed 11/11, darn it. And then it just like hit me one day. It was like, well, you could do the thing that you've been talking about wanting to do. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could do the thing that I've been talking about wanting to do. And it all stems from this seemingly unfortunate situation in the past that it was a blessing when it hit. And then when I found out what it was, I was like, oh, I thought that was a blessing, but actually in reality, it kind of wasn't. But when I thought on it more, I was like, it was a blessing for what it was, when it was. And now it's still giving back to me. And so now I'm like, there's just a lot of stuff that is presenting itself and unfolding in ways that I didn't expect right now. And I'm like low-key kind of sort of shook, and I'm watching the time because I want to see this 1, 2, 3, 4 on the clock. But there are things that are just continuing to unfold in very unexpected ways. Things that at the time seemed and felt like setbacks. But those setbacks are propelling me forward into, honestly, into what I want. And so, I don't know, I just appreciate that even where I am, I can still appreciate things like that when they happen. And I don't want to say like even where I am as if I'm like, on Mars or something. But it's just like little surprises and synchronicities, and it's things that seem like setbacks but aren't. Like when stuff like that happens, it gets me every time. And it's funny because like sometimes I'll be like, oh, like, get used to it because, this is what this experience can be when you are connected and when you trust and when you are open to being led and open to being guided, and you allow yourself to go to the places that, Spirit, God, angels, the Lord, that where they want to take you, because ultimately it's like, they can view the whole map. And not only can they view the whole map, but they can see every timeline. And every timeline being that one choice impacts another choice. And one vibration and frequency attracts a certain suite of possibilities, right? And so, like, not only do they see the lay of the land, but they also know how it will change depending on what you do or don't do, depending on the space that you occupy, right? And so there are so many levels deep into what the whole picture is that we don't even fully have the capacity to comprehend and understand. But the beautiful thing about it is that we don't have to. We don't have to, because it's like our GPS navigation ride is the vibe that we stay at. And it's honestly like, I don't know, I'm just like amazed by how the system works, I guess. And maybe it's an interesting way to express the feeling that I'm feeling right now, but it's the only way I know how to do it. Because it's so infinitely complex and inoperable on the level that we're at, but at the same time so easy to navigate. And easy to navigate in a way that isn't without difficulties, and it's not without challenge, but it's easy in its simplicity, right? That's like me saying, if you want to be the richest man alive, all you have to do is acquire $250,000,000. And you're like, okay, that sounds simple, right? Yeah, that's all I have to do, but how do I do that? It's all vibration and it's all frequency. Anyway, I'm going way off the rails. Next is the Eight of Pentacles. So become a master of that. Whatever this is, right? Because I feel like there are many ways to escape a situation. But there are some ways that, I guess that ties into what I was talking about. There are some ways that land you in a more favorable position than other ways, right? And once you become a master of your ship, of your vehicle, of your plane, of your ride, right? Once you learn how to drive your whip, and once you know how to, like punch it into the GPS, because it's like some folks have GPS, but then they still don't use it. It's like, they turn on the GPS and like, oh, I'm going to go down this road. I'm going to go out this way. Like, this way is better. This way is quicker. The GPS doesn't know what they're talking about. And sometimes that is actually the case, especially depending on what you use to navigate, right? And where it is that you need to sort of stop by and go along the journey. But once you master that, you then really step into this energy. That's the Emperor. The Emperor! Right? That is the Emperor, right? Yeah, it is. I was like, I gotta check. Oh, because they're on the right side. I was looking for the kids on the left, but they're on the right. The kids are all right. The kids are still going to be born. They still have a future. Thank goodness, because it was looking a little rocky for these children, for these unborn children. But, theirs isn't a presence that could so easily be erased. Marty McFly was always meant to be. He was always meant to be. There was always going to be a Marty McFly. Regardless of what would have happened that night or what wouldn't have happened that night, there was always going to be a Marty McFly and F. Calvin Klein. I don't know why I'm talking about Marty and Calvin, but I'm just feeling good. See, that is like the one thing, though. Sometimes when I get on here, just like being of service in some way helps me transmute a lot of stuff. And that's something I actually learned in my meditation class when dude asked me to balance someone else's chakras. And I was like, what? I was actually excited because he told us that we could do it like a month or so in. And a month was like 4 weeks, 4 sessions. It was every Wednesday. And I was like, hey, like you mentioned that we could like do this on other people. Like, how do we do that? Or when do we know that we can do that? And he was like, oh, he laughed at me. He was like, you can already do that. All you have to do is believe that you can. And I was like, what? And then anyway, so we always start our meditation classes with a check-in, right? So we do the meditation. We see where our chakras are at. And mine were a little left heavy. I think 2 of mine. I think it was was that the root and the sacral, or the root and the solar? Or was it the sacral and the solar? I think it started at the root for sure. And then I think it jumped to the solar. The one thing I didn't like, though, is that how, like, sometimes he kind of sort of read me low-key. Because, part of the issue was my root, right? So anyway, I'm not gonna get into it because I don't have to read myself without cards right now. But he asked me to come over and help balance somebody else, and it blew my mind because what I was feeling, like he was also feeling, and like I have this thing sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I have this thing where I don't want to get something wrong, and so I won't like say anything. And one thing that I've always admired, or one type of person that I've always admired, is the person who's not afraid to speak up in class and to get the answer wrong. Because at the end of the day, that's how you learn. Truly, that's how you learn. You don't learn. You never learn if. Okay, well, it's like you don't learn when you already know it. Like if you already know it, how can you learn it? You can remember it, right? But you can't really learn it. So mistakes is one of the best and only ways to learn. In some ways it's the only way, but in some other ways it's not. But we felt the same things. And it was it was low key. He was like, okay, so like what do you feel? And I was like, I'm feeling this. And he was like, yeah, I'm feeling it too. That means his solar plexus is a little wonky right now. And it kind of sort of means that he's not in control of himself. Like he's not his own master. And we're standing like literally right behind this dude. So I'm looking at him like, bruh. But after we balanced him out, or we helped balance him out, he was definitely in a better state than we found him. But he was like, how do you feel now? So then I checked in with myself and I was like, what? I'm like, I'm good now. And he was like, yeah, like one of the beautiful things about it is that, you know, sometimes when we help others, we also help ourselves. And so, like, it's, for me, it was kind of a conundrum because sometimes it's like, you know, if I'm not good within myself, I don't necessarily want to try to go out to help somebody else. And now it's 2222. And so I'm like, you know, if I'm not good, why would I try to help somebody else? But in helping somebody else, sometimes that helps us be good or get good or be better. And now I'm just ranting. I hope, like, I'm recording this on my cell phone, like in portrait mode. So you can probably tell that this was not meant to be a 25-minute video. I just wanted to get on and be like, I don't want to talk to this woman every week, getting the worst of the worst news. Like, hello, I'm fine. You don't have to check in on me. I appreciate your concern and your understanding, but I guarantee you I'm okay. And if I wasn't okay, you would not be making me feel any better. But if I wasn't okay, you would be checking in on me and helping me feel better. So maybe it's like, you know, she got to give to so many folks when she come across someone who is in a good space. Maybe she just needed to dump a little bit of what she was just getting. 23-23. Oh, it's 23-24. Darn it. Maybe she just needed to dump a little bit of what she was getting from everybody else. And again, I understand I could be a little bit of a transmuter in some degrees, but at the same time, girl, it's like you calling to check in on me. So 23:45. So I'm gonna need for you to like, it's fine. Anyway, the reason why I went on that whole tangent is because I'm feeling in a much better space right now. And sometimes when we serve other people and when we help heal other people, we then in part also heal ourselves. And I just got something. So I guess I was supposed to do this because I feel like I just got kind of sort of what I was looking for. It's like, anyway, it's 24-24. So then we have this Queen of Wands and this Ace of Swords, right? So we got this Emperor, someone coming into their power by mastering and becoming, by going from an adept to a master at what it is that sort of gets them in their vibe and in their flow. Once you can master that, you become this Emperor, right? You come into this power, and once you come into that power, you sort of get this knowledge and understanding of I'm getting this. This isn't. This Ace of Swords is interesting because this Ace of Swords isn't clarity in itself. It isn't knowledge in itself. As in, it's not given to you, but it's a clarity of direction. This is a mission objective, right? It's the next journey that you go on to really step into this. And you may go like, whoa, like if I'm already here, what do I need to like this for? And it's because, you know, oops, there's the Ace of Swords on the ground. Let's see if it's still upright. It is. Nope, it's in reverse now. But I'm going to turn it back upright. Because it's an inward journey. And that's why it's not a clarity, right? I feel like maybe if this was upright, it would be like, oh, you got an answer from the heavens, right? But with this falling out in reverse, I feel like that is just clarifying that it's a journey inward that you will go to find this lady. Because we need both this energy and Empress energy in some levels, right? It's okay if, you know, someone plays more of a role than the other, but we should have both within us. And so now, since the Emperor came out, y'all know I gotta look for the Empress, so let's see where she at. Let's see what's surrounding the Empress. And I'm gonna take the same number of cards, right? And so it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, it's gonna be 3 before the Empress and 2 after the Empress. So let's do this. This is gonna be a half-an-hour video of me on my bed. Y'all can see all the mess in the closets. It is what it is, shoot. It is what it is, and I am who I am. I ain't gonna be nobody else, because I can't be. I can only be me. Duh, hello? And if you don't like me, that's cool. Let me stop. I was gonna say I probably don't like you either, but that's not the case. There's some people that I haven't vibed with that liked me, and I'm like, this is awkward, because, like, I don't know what to do with this information. I thought that was the Empress maybe for a second, but it was the 9 of Pentacles. So maybe the Empress is like doing her own thing. Okay, so 3 before. 1, 2, 3. Oh, wait. Oh, okay. This is for me. All right. You try to tell somebody, but then they find out. I'm just kidding. So we have these. So 1, 2, 3, and then the Empress, and then 2. Okay. One interesting thing to note, or 2 interesting things to note. So the 4th card before the Empress is this Ace of Cups, and the 3rd card after the Empress is this King of Wands. So we have the Ace of Cups and the King of Wands sitting outside of this sort of energetic window, right? And I say that's interesting because we have this Queen of Wands with the Ace of Swords that came out after the Emperor. So that's why I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And it's interesting that the King of Wands was sitting outside of the situation with the Ace of Cups. And what does that mean? When we have the Queen of Wands with the Ace of Swords. So I feel like someone is discovering something based off of knowledge is something that comes about through practice, right? It's like science is science because trial and error. It's hypothesis, it's theory, hypothesis, testing, confirmation, stuff like that. This is the confirmation energy. This is the need for confirmation, or this is information that came to be, right? For this queen. And it's interesting because the queen, who is the more intuitive energy as the feminine side of this Wands energy, right? The queen, who is the more intuitive energy, needed information, needed knowledge, needed facts, needed something to come to her awareness. But the king, that is the masculine side of this energy. Where did he go? King, where you go? Wow, King. Oh, wait. That's because I put the whole deck back together. Give me one moment to find this king again. Okay. It was after this because I remember looking at these. So you had the feminine side of that energy who needed that masculine perspective. And the masculine perspective being like, I need information. I need this to be like backed and grounded and supported by something. I need to see it. I need to see something. That was the feminine, but the masculine side of this, which is typically the more practical, the more analytical, the more in his head, typically, right? Masculine energy is more planning, and feminine energy is more feeling. But he felt it. And I feel like this was something new for the both of them, right? Because typically the feminine is more intuitive. Like, she would just like feel it. She would be the one to feel it, and he would be the one that needs it to be proven, right? But for some reason, and this is also interesting because we have the King of Wands with the Ace of Cups. And I feel like I've gotten this combination before, because I feel like I remember saying that only the Ace of Cups holds enough water to put out his fire. And so maybe that's why this isn't a sword, right? Because when it comes to Wands energy, I feel like for the king is so active, the king is so fixed. The king is fixed and the queen is cardinal. So the king is so fixed that all of his fire has to be put out before he can really embark upon something new. Like, if there's even a spark left, if there's an ember left, and if it catches wind, that's enough for it to rage again, right? And so the Ace of Cups had to come in to put him all the way out. And then, like, drunken love just came into my mind, right? But that had to come in to put him out, to get him to see something, because he was blinded by whatever it was that he was chasing or feeling prior. And it's interesting that both of these are feeling cards. So he did feel something, but the feeling was incomplete, and it left him feeling incomplete. And so in this, it's like there are some spaces that could only be filled with water, right? Because water can seep through crevices, and once water freezes, then it can occupy space, right? Or water, even when water isn't frozen, it can occupy space, and water occupies space in a way that air doesn't. Because air occupies a space, but it doesn't add any weight, right? And so if he had air, and there was probably a lot of air, but if he had air in these spaces, there had to be air in the cracks, right? What else is there? It's not a void. Or was it? Why is this turning into a whole thing? I'm just going to keep going with it. But the air didn't hold any weight, right? The air only served to fuel these old fires. And it's like, even the embers from the fires were tired. They were tired of burning. And now it's 33. It's like they were tired of burning. And so that's why he got the cup. Because he had to completely flush out everything. Everything that was old, everything that was decaying, everything. It's like Hachiko. I think it's Hachiko. The dog in Shibuya? Maybe not Shibuya. It's a Japanese dog who waited for his owner at the train station every day. And his owner died in, I think, a war. And so he never came back. But Hachiko, the loyal dog, was still there every single day. And so now there's a statue of him there. And I feel like that's the energy here. It's like waiting for something that would not have returned, or that would not have... Waiting for something that you've grown beyond. It's like when this king was a child, there was something that he dreamed of. But now that he's a king, now that he's a man, now that he has a kingdom, aiming for an empire, there are things like... You see the emperor looking at these children, thinking back fondly on maybe his days as a child. But he continued to move on. It's like he can look back at that and continue moving forward. Whereas this king, would look back at it and be sort of stuck waiting for it, keeping the fire burning, keeping the torches lit just in case. And so that's why this purifying water had to come in and take care of the fire. Because it's like the fire isn't doing what it's supposed to do. The fire is supposed to purify and it's supposed to move, but this fire is burning itself to stay lit. And while it's burning itself, it's not doing its job. So you got to send something in. The only thing that could... And then the Queen of Wands is trying to slink away back into the deck. The only thing that could really put that out. And now the Queen of Wands is in reverse. Well, they're both in reverse. But I'm going to turn them upright. And so the reason why the Queen had to get this sword... I kind of lost it because I was talking for so long about the King, right? But the reason why this Queen had to get the sword is because the Queen, being a cardinal energy, needed to know where to go, right? It's like the King needed... I don't want to say he needed to be put out of his misery, but the space that he was staying in was misery because his fires were wanting to rage and move forward, but he was keeping them contained. Right? And so that's why they had to that's why they had to be doused. Right? But it's like this Queen, she's cardinal fire. So the Queen is the spark, whereas the King is the raging inferno. And so to get her to move, this gust of air had to come in and had to spread her embers forward in order for her to move forward, because she kind of sort of needed that direction, right? Anyway, I still got all these cards over here that I wanted to get to, but I'm going to lay these out real quick just to kind of sort of compare the energies. And this is all on my bed. So again, this was not planned. I just wanted to get on and to release a little bit. And part of me felt bad because I was like, I don't want to perpetrate that toxic energy on my channel. I want to transmute it, but girl, I have to tell somebody, and my mama was outside. I was like, Mama, I don't want these calls every week. So around the Queen, around the Empress, we're starting with the shadow side, right? And so the King of Swords, 3737, was just on the clock. I saw it. The King of Swords, the King of Wands, was surrounding this energy. Excuse me. So we have the Queen of Wands that came out. These are reversed. We had the Queen of Wands that came out at the tail end of the Emperor. And then we had the King of Wands sitting outside the Empress's gate. And so maybe on her side, right, because I said the King needed to be watched out because he was holding a flame for someone that was never going to return. And he was very loyal, very commendable, very honorable, very all of that. But Hachiko is celebrated for his loyalty, but Hachiko's celebration came at the expense of his life. And, 3838, his owner passed away. So it's like, where would he have gone? What would he have done without that owner? But at the same time, people take in stray animals all the time. And he could have found a new owner. He could have found a new family. He could have been happy. And yes, he wouldn't have been celebrated as this like super loyal dog, but at the expense of his own life and his own happiness. Like what's like, there's this martyr energy. There's a martyr energy here. And it's funny that this martyr energy comes with the Empress, right? Because the Empress is Venusian energy. So that's the energy of both Taurus and Libra. And Libran energy can be martyr energy, high key. And martyr energy is just that, like, when you sacrifice your own joy, health, happiness for someone else, when you put someone else's needs above yourself, and when you're willing to go to extremes to keep them satisfied at any cost to you. 3939. Right? And I think that's what this shadow side is. This is that martyr energy. And we had the Page of we had the Ace of Cups sitting outside of the situation. Well, here's the Page of Cups, right? Here's a brand new. It's not as extreme as the Ace of Cups. And so the shadow side is sitting on top of the Four of Wands. This Page of Cups is going to be sitting on top of the Six of Cups, which would make it a Seven of Cups. And I feel like the 6 plus the Ace from the Page to make it a 7, that's options in ways that you didn't even expect. This is an option that you didn't consider, because this Page of Cups feels like an illusion. There's moon energy here, but it's like a mirage. And so it's sun energy, it's eclipse energy. There's this eclipse. I've never felt an eclipse energy. So that's card number 23. Card number 22 is going to be Hope. Major number 22 is Hope from daily upload number whatever that was. Now I'm 41 minutes into this. Oh my gosh. I said I wasn't going to talk about the time. I'm sorry. Card number 23, I might have to rework it. But there's an eclipse energy. And I guess that is judgment in this deck. And it's interesting that I'm feeling it in this deck because 20 is karma in this deck, which comes after the sun, which is that eclipse where the sun and the moon meet. And the reason why I say it's like an eclipse is because it's like a mirage. And the mirage is what it is because of the sun. But it's deceptive and it gives that moon energy. And so I think that's what this was about. And I think with this clarifying 3 cards out from the Emperor and the Empress, it's like, the situation wasn't great, because if the situation was amazing, spectacular, wonderful, everything you've ever wanted, like that's what you'd be in right now, right? But I feel like the situation in itself isn't where a lot of the toxicity lies right now. I feel like a lot of the toxicity lies in or lied in the attachment to it. Because again, the attachment to it kept someone, 4224, stuck in that martyr energy where they were sacrificing all of the happiness, joy, fulfillment, abundance, wealth. They were sacrificing all of that to keep themselves waiting for something. And it's not to say that 4242, sometimes you shouldn't wait, but it's... Somebody barbecuing? It's to... And now the smell is gone. Someone was literally lighting themselves on fire. That reminds me of Dido and Aeneas, I think. And Dido was... It's Greco-Roman mythology somewhere, where there was a seafarer, a traveler, a warrior, a hero, or a journeyer. Was that Odysseus in Dido? Or Aeneas? Anyway, Dido was like the queen, I think, of this island. And she met this man. I'm pretty sure Cupid played a role somewhere. And Cupid had her fall madly in love with him so that in his stay he would be protected. 4334. There it is. So on his stay he would be like protected or treated well or whatever. But when it came time for him to move on. Hold on, wait. I gotta look up Dido. My phone is right here, so I can't look it up. When it came time to him to move on, I think there was like, they sent him off. And she was so madly in love and she didn't know how to live without him that she threw herself onto the fire. Oop. So there goes the 20% notification. So I'm going to shift things a little bit so I can keep going because this is a lot longer than I expected. So give me one moment and don't judge me for the messy room. I know that quarantine time is a time to get in and to take care of this mess. And believe me, folks, I will be doing that. But at first I got to move some other stuff. Okay, so changing scenery. And like this side of my head is just like sticking out because I was picking with it. It's fine. 44, 43, 44, 44. I got 22, 22, and 44, 44. So we're doubling here. Doubling our blessings by coming together. No longer stressing. Doubling our blessings. We're no longer stressing. We can do this as long as we keep our cool and as long as we keep on moving forward, just like the fool. It's okay to be a little foolish. It's okay to be a lot of foolish. It's okay to be completely foolish, because when you are the right kind of fool, when you're not a fool but you're perceived as a fool, you're on the right track. When you're doing something that no one else would do because everyone else is too afraid, and they're too afraid of their own brilliance, too afraid of their own authenticity, too afraid to break the molds and the paradigms and the structures that they've been living in because they've been told that that's what they have to do. Like, it's okay to be that fool. Oof. Right? Oh, goodness. It's a little warm back here. So, excuse me. That's why this Page of Cups sitting on top of the Six of Cups gives me the Seven of Cups feeling. But it's a Seven of Cups not in the moon, but it's very like, it's eclipse energy. Again, because of that mirage. There was this sun that used to be a light. And again, this could be past, present, or future. This could be deep past energy, because this is sitting on top of the Six of Cups, right? So this is probably deep past energy. And if it's not deep past energy, it's an energy that you've played out before. But it's like you have this old sun, this old thing that served its purpose, but now you have a new sun, right? And when you're following the light of the old sun, it's still not a moon, but it leads to this mirage. And the mirage is this palace. I don't know why I'm seeing it as a palace, but it's the palace where the King and the Queen of Wands were going to live. Because at first I heard used to live. It's a palace where they used to live, but it had never been built. And so it's like they used to live there in this way that was all imagined. Eclipse energy, mirage energy. I'm actually going to be working, I guess I didn't want to talk about it, but it just popped to my mind, so I'm going to share it. I'm actually going to be working on a deck. And it's coming because, so on daily upload number 4, which you can't hear, I looked back, I wanted to, because I said something and then it reminded me of something, so I wanted to look back and find it. And I ended up on daily upload number 4. Daily upload number 4 is when I use the dice, right? And when I use the dice, I structured it in a way that is based off of elements in numerology. And I got really lazy when I did it. And so I just use it like with a tarot base, with the classic tarot meanings, instead of really flushing it out into what I'm feeling. And I already changed the court system. So instead of the Page, the Knight, the King, and the Queen, it's, I don't remember what it is, but I know the King and the Queen hold the energy of like teachers and sages. And again, the teacher is the energy of leading others or of teaching others, but the sage is the energy of progressing oneself. And the teacher is more broad in the scope of her knowledge, in her awareness, and in her ability to then communicate it. But the sage is a lot more focused in his knowledge, awareness, and in his ability to communicate, right? And so it's like, I don't know how many of y'all have been to college or what kind of experience y'all have had with professors, but I've had professors who are like really, really smart. They're brilliant and they lead their field, right? They've done this in their field and they've done that. They have all these accolades. They're amazing researchers, but when it comes time to teach other people that don't have that base of knowledge, when it comes time to speak to someone who isn't already like that hasn't already received their PhD, then that's where they sort of lack, right? They're the sages. They're really focused and really brilliant, but not that great at teaching and leading other people who aren't there, right? Because sometimes you need a teacher. You don't need... Ooh, I don't like the fact that Gandhi just popped into my head. It's like you don't need a Gandhi. But I guess, you know, like if you are 4949, if you are fresh on your journey, right? Or if you are standing just before the precipice of your awakening, what isn't necessarily helpful is someone coming in with a perspective that you'll gain once you're much further along, right? That's like if I go back to my past self when I was depressed, and if I talk to myself then like I talk to myself now, completely over my head. Not only would it be over my head, I would be over me, because there were people who kind of sort of tried to speak to me in a way that I'm just like, it seems like there's a lack of understanding there. But it's just a difference in perspective and a difference in, sometimes it is a lack of understanding, 50-50. Sometimes it's just someone not being yet in a space where they're ready to receive what they need to receive. Excuse me. And so, that's the difference between the sage energy and the teacher energy. And I've gotten like a little tippy tap lately to really sit down with the energies, to type it out, to really like put it down, because I want to type it out before I go to like image building, because I want to know the energy that I'm looking for, right? And I actually pulled out my surface last night. I did not begin, but that's what I'm going to start working on. And a part of me is like, I'm going to really start working on that when there's still schoolwork that I need to do that I haven't worked on, but I still can't access the program. And I'm getting to the space now where like not being able to access the 5151, not being able to access the program is not a valid enough excuse for me to stop moving. Like it is, but it isn't. And by it is, I feel like I mean like I can have that sort of mentality, and maybe it could be justified, but it isn't, because like I can no longer allow this to stop me from moving. And I've been in this space for a while now, probably coming up on a month. It's already been a month. It's like a month today. And it's wild and it's crazy. And I've kind of sort of been in my feelings a little bit lately, but not in my feelings in a bad way. Just, I feel like I've been pulled into this space of anticipation. Anticipating what? I don't know. Oh my gosh, it's going to be an hour long. I said I'm going to stop freaking out about the time. I'm sorry. So let me continue. So that's why this Page of Cups and the Six of Cups is giving me Seven of Cups vibes. And it's not Seven of Cups in a way that is illusionary or deceptive, but it's like there's new information. There's a brand new cup that has come to the table. And this cup is more viable than any cup has ever been before. Like, this is the type of cup that you tell your children about. Right? And in this Emperor card, you see those kids. Maybe those are his kids, right? This is like How I Met Your Father or mother. How I Met Your Other Parent, right? And this is the story. This is like where this story begins. It's this energy of like the old sun is setting, the mirage is lifting, and as the mirage lifts, it's like, again, like your Hachiko, 53. You're keeping a flame for something that, oh, this is kind of morbid, but it's like you're doing CPR on something that passed away a long time ago. Out of your, because I feel like it's not only are you refusing to let it go, but it's like the more you compress on someone else's chest, it's like you compressing on someone else's chest is keeping your heart beating. And so maybe that's why for a while you needed this sun to be there. But when your orbit shifted, right? When your orbit shifted, it's like another sun came into the system. You were on the furthest edge. Is that the perihelion and ephelion or aphelion, perihelion. The one that's not, I think the perihelion is the closest point. Girl, I don't know why I've been so into science lately. Trying to remember and recall all this scientific mumbo jumbo I got in my brain. But when you're at the closest point, it's one thing, but it's like you're at your furthest point from the old sun. And while you were out there, this new sun was transiting your system and it picked you up. And so it's like you've been orbiting in a new solar system, SOUL, solar system. You've gotten this rebirth at some point that maybe you didn't fully realize and recognize, but at some point it definitely happened. And you're in this new solar system looking in the direction of the old sun. Because it's like, let's say the way that the days work, it's like your clocks haven't adjusted yet because you haven't set the clocks, right? They don't automatically adjust, unfortunately. And so it's like you go outside at 12 o'clock expecting the sun to be directly overhead. It's noon. It's when the sun is the highest and brightest in the sky, if it's not cloudy. But it's like 12 p.m. is now 12 a.m. So you're going out in the middle of the night looking at this moon as if it was the sun. Again, there's this eclipse energy, and it's karma in this deck. It's judgment. But you're looking at the moon as if it were the sun, when in reality, you're in a whole different system. And so once you let that go, then, and maybe that's what the Six of Cups is. Maybe this is the mirage energy. That's the nostalgia. You're thinking back on something as if it were, it's like you're seeing it. And again, this could be deep past energy because we're talking about the Six of Cups. It could be deep past, it could be future, it could be whatever. I'm just reading energy. I don't know when it applies. Honestly, I could be just reading for myself and just rambling on camera for other people to enjoy if y'all enjoy. But, where was I going with that? Yeah, because this is the nostalgia card, right? This is you looking towards that thing that hasn't been that for a while. And you, with this page, it's like a brand new system. That's why this is a page 2.0, right? And again, if you're recent to this channel, if you missed everything, I feel like, kings and queens are great, but their rule is fixed. And so when it comes time to expand, take the world nowadays, take today, case in point, when it's time to expand and when it's time to handle something new, something novel, when it's time to enter a space that you've never been in before, sometimes having a system that is well established, 5757, is more detrimental than entering a new system, right? Because if you're too fixed in what you've always been, if you're too far down and deep into your own ego that you can't modulate and adjust according to the situations before you, you're going to fall. You are going to fall, right? I can't, there's a lot of stuff that I don't have the words for it. If you're picking up telepathically what I'm putting out there, then you get it. But that's why we're coming into this page 2.0. Because some of the kings and queens of old just aren't suited for the energy that we're coming into. They're not suited for the space. They're too fixed. They're too well established. They're not flexible enough to bend into this new reality. 5858. If they bend too much, they'll snap. And they're not going to allow themselves to risk snapping, and so they'll just have the whole kingdom sink to the ground, right? And that's why I'm on this page 2.0 energy. Sometimes a page is a page. Sometimes a page is a 2.0. Sometimes we got people coming into King and Queen 2.0 energy because they've been pages 2.0 before the full system rolled out, right? It's like they were beta testers for this 2.0. I got a World of Warcraft beta test for Mr. Pandaria when the pandas were brand new, and we opened up brand new lands. And in these brand new lands, they got to choose which faction they wanted to be on instead of being locked into a faction already. And I think they were the first race in the game where they got to choose a side, right? They weren't sort of born on a side. And so I actually beta tested that, and I feel like there were some beta testers, 59, 59. Oh, this is an hour long, y'all. I keep saying I'm not gonna mention the time, but I can't help it. I can't help it, and I won't do it again. This is as long as it is. And so I beta tested that game. They were the first sort of faction that got to choose their side, that got to pick an alliance, an allegiance. And so I feel like, there are some people who have been like beta testing this energy. And so if you come into a king or a queen 2.0 now, and that's part of this global realization that's coming. It's like, what is that? There's this global sun card, but it's a sun card in a way. We're going from moon to sun because this is a new horizon. What is that? What's a new horizon? This is hangman in reverse energy. But it's a hangman in reverse, not in the fact that someone is stuck. But it's a hangman in reverse in the fact that it was a hangman before things moved, right? And so it was someone who saw things in a completely different way, someone who was beta testing. And then when everything started to move and shift, this hangman went in reverse. And so now we're seeing all of the knowledge that this hangman was acquiring while we thought it was in reverse and not with the times or ahead of its time or whatever, out of place in a different space. Right? But now that we're coming into the space that hangman was in, as everything else is turning, it's going in reverse. But when it's reversed, it's upright, right? Instead of hanging, it's now floating. It's flying. That's the flying man. Why am I getting so deep into this? I don't know. But those folks who so there's going to be this difference between a king and a queen, and kings and queens nowadays may be kind of rare. Because again, I feel like a lot of us are coming into this page 2.0 energy. Or if you see a king or a queen, it's probably going to be a king or a queen 1.0 that's stuck in an old energy, stuck operating in old paradigms when things are shifting and moving forward. But you will perchance find a knight, king, or a queen 2.0 or 3.0 or 4.0, depending on where they are, right? And so it could be an energy of, again, I don't know if this is necessarily the case, but I'm going to say it because it came to me. So it could be we're in this space where there was someone that we viewed as a page in the past, because they were like a page 2.0 before the system rolled out. So they already started playing by new rules. They already started playing by different rules before the system rolled out, before it was required, before it was called for, right? That's that hangman again energy. But as everything is rolling over, you're going to be realizing that the page or the person that you looked at as a page immature, childish, was really, and I was going to say this in another video, I don't think I said it, like there's a difference between being childlike and being childish, right? And so someone had this childlike energy that was, maybe you're starting to realize it was more evolved than the times. But then I feel like as you think back on it again with this 6 of Cups and with this Ace of Cups, as you think back on it, this Page of Cups, as you think back on it, I think this page is going to begin to shift into a king or queen. And it's going to be a king or a queen in a way that was very different than what the energy declared as royalty before, right? And again, I need to keep moving. So now we have the Strength card, which is very interesting. It's very interesting, right? I feel like this is the strength to cut ties and to move forward. And honestly, this is the strength to allow yourself to become everything that you are. Because I feel like there's a lot of this page 2.0 energy already here. Because it's like, it's just like a video game. Whenever they come out with an expansion, whenever they come out with a new game, if the new game is on a new system, you have to buy the new system, right? And so the fact that you are within the realm and frequency of this vibration to attract this page 2.0 means that you've already gotten the upgrade. And again, I feel like I've said it, I can't remember what it was in context to, but yeah, and you're already in this new solar system, but you're looking at the sky going out at the times where the old sun used to be the highest, where you need to go where the new sun is, and the only way to get to the new sun is to live it and is to experience it, or to be connected to the new solar system, right? To update your little astronomy textbooks. And I was going to say astrology. I don't know if there's going to be a new astrology, girl. Miss me with that. I don't know. Not miss me with that, but I don't know. Right? I don't know. But like, you already have the system. And not only do you have the system, girl, like, you're going to be so upset when you realize you've been playing these brand new games on old settings, like the new graphics, the new updates. They're going to blow your mind. And you're going to be like, what? I was playing, like, what? I could have been, like, yeah, it's all about time. It's about time. Divine timing. We find out when we're meant to, right? But I think that's what the strength is. Where'd it go? Where did strength go? Oh, here it is. I think that's what the strength is. It's the strength to sort of realize and recognize that you are in this new space and that it is time to sort of like to move on. Strength sitting on top of this 8 of Pentacles. And this is interesting because these are very similar messages, right? This was the message of someone being a master at what it is that gets them in their creative, flowy, juicy mode, right? Whatever gets you nice and ripe and ready and juicy. And whatever make you look nice on the shelf. That makes somebody else want to pick you up instead of everything else around you. When they can't have you, honey, you can't even afford this. Look but not touch. Touch at your own risk, enter at your own risk. Because if you get too close to this sun, you might get burnt. And if you get burnt, that ain't on me. There's like, you know, don't be mad at the stove because you turned it up on high and then you set your hand on it. Right? Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this, y'all. I'm riding a wave right now. I'm sorry. But this is very similar energy. But I feel like one person is becoming a master at this. And another person is just like, because this is the Empress, right? The Empress is in this. So she's just intuitively finding it. But she's finding it once she releases herself of everything old. Like, there's this element of release. There's also an element of a rebirth. And it's interesting that Temperance comes after death, right? Because you have death and then you have the angel. And so I'm feeling a lot of like in-between energy today. Like between the sun and the moon. Well, that came out as justice, or judgment in this deck at least. But between like, I don't know, there's like lots of like, it's like it's almost here, but it's high, it's a higher octave. That's what it is. It's a higher octave of the energy. And so we were sitting on this old sun being called to this higher octave of sun energy. And that's why it was giving me like sun and moon vibes, because there's no moon in a mirage anywhere. It's all sunlight, right? So there's a higher octave. Am I going to have to add 22 more majors to this deck? Because that's going to push me at like 78 plus 22. Is that 100? 100 cards? I feel like I got to build this thing now. I am kind of actually really excited, but I don't know where I'm going to start. And I still have the schoolwork to do, but I'm going to do both. And I know last time I said I said I was going to do both and I didn't do both. We're actually going to do both, but I am going to prioritize school. But in my off time, I will be, I mean, it's going to be running in the back of my mind constantly anyway. But yeah, we're being called to a higher octave of majors. This is the seeker, right? In the SKT, you have the initiate, the seeker, and the keeper. This is the keeper. The keeper is the fool who's made their way from the magician to the world, but who begins again. We're starting on lap 2. It's a new game plus. It's a harder difficulty, but it's not only a harder difficulty. It's a higher octave. It's new. It's higher. I don't know how. Whoa, I'm just like, my brain is already like ready to do it. I'm like, hold up, wait, don't go too far because I don't want to lose it. Let me continue. So now we have the Empress on top of the Emperor, right? I feel like this doesn't need much clarification. But it's like he's looking back on these children. She is pregnant with them, right? And again, for him, like, this is something that he had to work on. This is something that he had to master. For her, this is something that she's like, she's incubating it. she's going to give birth to it. And I feel like that's the intuitive difference between them. And then this is really interesting because what comes next? The moon. And this, another thing that's really interesting that I'm just now noticing is that, so I'm going to tell you what the last two cards are. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. The last card is the High Priestess. So you have the Moon and the High Priestess. The Moon, the High Priestess, and the Empress. Mother, Maiden, Crone. Y'all already know. But besides the shadow side, which features a female on here, like this Page of Cups is a female, right? I believe. This Strength card, female. Female presenting imagery on these cards. To my eyes right now, I'm seeing it how I need to see it, right? Then we move into this Moon, female. Empress, female. High Priestess, and then Empress, female, right? There's lots of feminine energy on here. So again, I feel like, you know, I'm watching the clock. You already know 1:11:11. Letting go. I mean, that's where the devil is sitting, right? That's honestly the hardest part of this whole thing. And I feel like this is like, on the Emperor side, I feel like that was some hints to the past, but that's more present leading into the future. But on the Empress side, I feel like I talked about a lot of old energy. Depending on where you are with this devil, right? And this was the first card out. So depending on where you are with this could be present moving into future. Or honestly, like I'm feeling like, depending on where you are with that devil, a lot of this could be present energy. And again, it's because I feel like on this side, you're already in this new solar system. You just have to realize that you are. And once you do, it's like, I mean, you got the Moon into the High Priestess, right? And so we have this Moon sitting on top of this Queen of Wands, and it's interesting. Look, they're both holding staves. Hers is flowering, the Queen of Wands. Hers is on fire. Hers is the torch. And I feel like, honestly, well, okay, hers is a torch and not a whole staff, but I saw it as a whole staff. And so, like, this Moon has very magician-like qualities. And, I mean, she is the crone, so, you know, to be expected. But I feel like in both situations, in both scenarios, it's like learning to be your own light. No. Yes and no. On the Emperor's side, it's like embodying the light and learning to see the light within yourself. On the Emperor's side, it's about learning to project that light so that even in the darkness, you still shine. But does the Queen of Wands not have a shine about her? You see how they're the same but slightly different? I don't know if I communicated it, but they're very, very similar energies, but they play a slightly different role. And then last but not least, we have this High Priestess sitting on top of this Ace of Swords. Is this not the same energy? Hello. Is this not the same energy? Once again, I say, hello. Are you there? Can you hear me? Is this not the same? Hello? Can you hear me now? The difference is, this is given. This Ace of Swords is given by, you know, it's like this is experiential again. Like, you know, you go through things and then you find out the truth by weeding through the lies. This is known. This is given. This is known. This is taken. This is received, right? And so again, it's this very, very similar energy, but different. It's like someone has to be given this sword. Someone has to be trained on the sword, right? But when it comes to the High Priestess, it's like she just knows. And I love this combination because I feel like these two together, this is the energy, right? Remember, because I said that it's like you're going out at 12 looking for the sun, but you're going out at 12 a.m. instead of 12 p.m. And so this is you coming into this. It's like your subconscious is shifting. Your consciousness is shifting. Your subconscious already knew. Your subconscious was already on it. I feel like your subconscious may have been playing with your angels, guides, and the Holy Spirit and everybody else. And I kind of feel bad for like lumping them together, but I know different people have different belief systems. But at the end of the day, it's all the same energy. And so that's why I say all of them. Again, not to minimize any one, but it's me. It's the Libra in me trying to accommodate multiple people because honestly, it's all very, very similar energy. It just goes by different names. And it goes by different names because it's been told by many different people in many different areas across many different times. And, anyway. I feel like there's been a deep part of you that there's been this, because this isn't a new moon, and she does bear a torch, right? Now the torch ain't gonna give you a sun, and I feel like it's not replacing this old sun, but it's again like there's been a little bit of an inkling of a knowing, and especially with this High Priestess coming out at the end with this moon card, like regardless of whether you wanted to admit it or not, regardless of how much you were aware of it or not, a part of you knew. Something somewhere within you knew. And so that's why, again, I feel like this isn't all brand new information for the Empress. It's kind of sort of like as soon as she accepts it, then boom, she's already well on her way. Whereas the Emperor had to do a lot of work. And so, again, if you find yourself on this journey, and let's say you're the latecomer in this situation, right? Let's say, perhaps, perchance, I feel like there's a possibility that somewhere in this energy there is a mismatch. There is one person who feels as if they are behind another, one person that feels as if they don't stack up. But in reality, like this is the reason why. One person had to work for this. One person was a little more bullheaded than the other person, right? One person had to work for this and the other person just had to come into it. And that's why. And so they're like all of this, and if that's fueling any of this toxic whatever, like how am I supposed to do whatever when this person is already whatever, like, it's like they already celebrating, they already hit their milestones, and I'm still back here like, catching up on the lesson. But it's because of this. Somebody needed more time in order for, I guess I am talking about an emperor and an empress. So again, this could be external. This could be internal. This could be battles between your shadow and your light. This could be battles between your heart and your mind, right? The heart and the mind. The mind, the heart. It don't got to be somebody else. But a part of you was ahead of the game. And the part of you that was ahead of the game was ahead of the game. But ahead of the game, girl, we keeping our heads on. Let's keep our heads on our shoulders. Let's not get too full of ourselves. Ego and pride don't serve nobody really. I guess that one card did say that, you could use your pride to fuel your desire to accomplish instead of using your pride to fuel your ego. It's a choice. The lines blur sometimes. Man, I'm smelling that smoky smell and it's making me hungry. But yes, again, it's like, maybe somebody was a little bit early to the party. It's not that they're early to the party. Someone started getting ready before the other person because they require more time to get ready, right? Like if we got to be at a function at 2:00, and if you take 2 hours to get ready, you need to start getting ready at 11:30 to give us a half an hour grace period to get to the function, right? So just because you start getting ready at 11:30 and the other person start getting ready at 1:00, don't mean it needs to be any arguments, because maybe the 1:00 person can get ready in half an hour and be ready by 1:30. Right? If you require 2 hours to get ready, you need to start getting ready at 11:30 to be ready by 1:30, so that at 1:30 you're both ready and you can leave together. And then you don't have to take separate cars, burn up more gas, do whatever, right? You can take the journey together. But somebody just needed a little bit more prep time. That's it. Ain't nobody better, ain't nobody worse, ain't nobody ahead, ain't nobody behind. Just different prep time. Because like this Empress has it in the bag. I mean, hold on, wait. Let me look at this again, because I believe like the Empress had 4 majors, including the Empress. We got the High Priestess, the Moon, and Strength. So that is, hold on, wait, let me lay these out. I'm sorry, y'all. I already put them all sorted together. And the Devil. I mean, the Devil ain't necessarily like, the best, but it's a major, shoot. Yeah, and I feel like this further clarifies my point. Like, literally, the Empress got 4 majors and 1 minor. Y'all see that? 4 majors and 1 minor. That's what the Empress got. The Emperor got 5 minors. So, again, with the 8 of Pentacles, it's just one person required more work than the other. The other person got this in the bag. In the bag. And I don't know where my cards are, but I'm going to stop this here. I'm going to upload this. I hope everyone is doing well. Do something you love. If you have the ability to hug somebody you love, or just call somebody that you love and be like, hey, I'm not necessarily worried about you. I know you are right now. If you are worried, then be like, hey, I just wanted to check in and make sure you're okay. It's just like, I wanted to talk to someone that I love today. And so I'm talking to you. How are you doing? And it's a Libra full moon today. So, it may be doubly appreciated. But yeah, I'm going to shut this down here. I hope everyone is doing well. And if you watched this all the way through, I'm not going to apologize, but just know that this was not planned by any means.